Christmas is coming and it's time to decorate our homes. One of my favorite Christmas decorations is crocheted snowflakes. You can make these snowflakes for Christmas tree ornaments, or just for decorating around your home, or for jewelry, or whatever your heart desires. But how do you take a crocheted snowflake from this to this? That's what I'd like to share with you today, with all the tips and tricks that I've learned over the years. So let's get started. Here I have two snowflakes. This one is just crocheted without being stiffened, and this one has been stiffened. It looks so much nicer after it's stiffened. So let's talk about the supplies that you're going to need first. Obviously, you're going to need some crocheted snowflakes. If you don't know where to find patterns, this is the book that I've been using for a number of years, which has lots of beautiful snowflakes in it. They've got large and small snowflakes. They've got some large and small icicles, some garlands, tree toppers, tree skirts, and just lots of beautiful patterns in here. So I'll give you a link to this pattern booklet if it's still available in the video description below, and you can check that out. If not, I'm sure you can find some other patterns online that are just as nice. Now, once you have your snowflakes, make sure that they are clean and dry. Go ahead and wash them and let them dry so that they'll be all nice and clean for stiffening. And to stiffen, we're going to use a template. This is a template that I've made, and it's a free download on my website. If you'd like to check that out, go ahead and download that. We also need a blocking board, and what I use is just one of these little 12-inch foam blocking boards that you can hook together if you need something bigger, but this one of these works just fine. And I always cover my template paper with some plastic wrap so that the moisture from the stiffener will not get onto the paper and ruin that template. Obviously, we're going to need some stiffener, and this is the one that I've been using lately. It works very well. There's a couple other brands, and you can even use watered down glue, white glue, if you prefer that. I used to pour my stiffener into a plastic tub, and then I would have my hands in there and they would get very dirty. Then I realized that if I use a zippered plastic bag to pour my stiffener into, I can close the bag and squeeze the snowflake around, and I keep my hands cleaner than I would if my hands were in the stiffening solution. And I like to have a napkin or a paper towel handy to wipe the excess off my hands. Now, one of the most important things that you're going to need for stiffening your snowflakes is some straight pins. I like to use some with a little ball on the top, which is easier on my fingers, but the main thing to look for in getting pins is stainless steel, because if you don't use stainless steel pins, your snowflakes can get rusted from the metal in other types of pins. These are 1 1/16 inch long, but you can use whatever length you like. A couple supplies that are optional would be a clean, dry toothbrush and tweezers. And these come into play after your snowflake is stiffened and you take it off of the blocking board and you turn it over, and there's all this debris left from the fabric stiffener. You can brush that off with the toothbrush, or you can pick out some different parts that are in there with the tweezers. All right, let's start stiffening this snowflake. So I'm going to take my bag and my fabric stiffener, and I'm just going to open it up like this and pour some in. And I don't need too much because I'm only stiffening one snowflake today. But if you're stiffening lots of snowflakes, you can pour in as much as you want. So now I'm going to take my clean, dry snowflake and go ahead and put it right in the bag. Close up the bag, and now I'm going to work that fabric stiffener into my snowflake. See how clean my hands are? And make sure your hands are clean before you do this also, because you will be touching your snowflake. So I'm working that stiffener into my snowflake, and I think that's probably enough. Let's go ahead and look inside. It's pretty wet in here, and we are going to take our snowflake out a little bit, and we're going to squeeze some of the stiffener back into the bag, because we don't need that much stiffener on it. Okay, now I'll set the bag aside, and let's go ahead and get our napkin, and we're going to put our snowflake on here, and we're going to get out some more stiffener, the excess stiffener that's on there. And now we have the appropriate amount. We can actually get some more out. We don't want it too soggy. We just want it in all the threads. That looks great. Okay, so now we can take our snowflake and pin it out. You can choose any of these, and I'm going to make sure that my hands are not messed up here. I'm going to get off most of that stiffener because the stiffener will dry on your hands, and when you're touching the snowflake, the dry stiffener can get on the snowflake, and you don't want that. I would typically go to the sink and wash my hands to make sure that it's all off, and that's mostly off. So let's go ahead and pin our snowflake now. What I always do is start with a pin in the center of my snowflake into the center of my template here. And we are going to have 6 large points and 6 small points on our snowflake. So let's go ahead and we'll just get these pins out where we can use them much easier. We're going to take one of the large points and pull it out and pin it. And we're going to use the point straight across from that and pin that as well. Now we want to aim for the same concentric circle for each of these. So let's get this a little further out. I'm trying to get my pin between the strands of thread. The snowflakes come out better if you get the pin between the strands of thread instead of through the strands of thread. Okay, we can pin the other 4 tips. We want to make sure that we're going out to about the same place, and we're going on these nice lines that are on our template. And we want to make sure that we're using the appropriate point of our snowflake. We don't want to pin this point when this is the tip of that point. So we want to get all of those pinned out. And now we want to pin out these other tips here. And this one we definitely don't need to go into any threads of the snowflake. We pin those. Let's see, we're in the same spot here. Same spot there. And look how pretty those are. They're getting pointed already. We're going up to there. And I angle my pins a little bit as I'm putting them in, because if I put them straight, sometimes the weight of the thread will pull the pin in. So I angle them out a little bit as I'm putting them in the template here. And we're getting our nice points on here. But that's not all we have for our pins. So this snowflake is going to need 4 more pins for each one of these long tips. And we're just going to eyeball these, get them in, try to keep this piece going straight here. We don't want to get them crooked. And I would continue pinning all around here, 4 more pins in each of these other 5 sections of the snowflake. And once all the pins are in, then we're going to let our snowflake dry. Now, depending on where you are in the country, it may take a short time or a long time to dry. So make sure it's all dry before you take your pins out. Okay, my snowflake is all dry now. It's been overnight and it's ready to take the pins out. But I wanted to show you that I put 2 pins in the top point of my snowflake to make a bigger hole for inserting a Christmas tree hanging piece or a piece of crochet thread, or however you'd like to hang your snowflake. And if you forget to put one in there, you can take any tapestry needle and choose one of your points on your snowflake after it's stiffened and poke it through that point to make it a little bit bigger opening. So have no fear if you forget to make one of your openings a little bit bigger. So let's go ahead and remove all the pins carefully. I like to put my finger at the base of the pin so that I'm not pulling the snowflake piece apart, because sometimes these pins will stick to the crocheted snowflake and you don't want it misshaping. You don't want to misshapen your snowflake. So each one of these pins comes out, and I'll meet you when I have finished taking all the pins out. Okay, I've got all my pins out, and now it's time to take the snowflake off of the board. And you need to do this very carefully so you don't misshapen your snowflake. Sometimes it'll stick. And here we have our finished stiffened snowflake, but there's a little bit of extra fiddly work that I like to do. And I like to turn it over to the back and take a clean, dry toothbrush and get rid of any of that extra stiffening solution that has dried on the back. And if there's any big places, I'll take my tweezers and take that off with my tweezers. So here's our finished snowflake. We have the top space big enough for hanging. And if we were going to make a garland out of a bunch of them, we'd want another opening on the opposite end of our snowflake, so we could put them end to end. Now that you've successfully stiffened your crochet snowflakes, I'd like to share what I do to store mine. This is how I store my snowflakes. I keep them in a plastic tub with a lid on them, and I keep them at room temperature. If they get too hot or too cold, they might get misshapen. And if they do get misshapen, all you need to do is use some steam very carefully, which will soften the stiffening solution, and you can pin them back out and let them cool and harden again. If you take care of your snowflakes, you'll enjoy them for many, many years. As you can see, crochet snowflakes are quick and easy projects. Each one takes about an hour and a half to crochet and to stiffen. I hope you'll give these snowflakes a try. Please let me know how your snowflakes turn out in the comments section below. I also have a written tutorial for stiffening snowflakes on my website. I've included that link in the video description. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more of my crochet videos, please subscribe to my channel. Thanks so much for watching, and happy snowflake crocheting to all of you. Christmas is coming and it's time to decorate our homes. As you can see, this is a quick, fun project to make. Yep, lost it again.